Yo, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly Gaming back at it again with another tips and tricks and helpful video for the college football community. If you're new to my channel, hi, I appreciate you clicking on this video and taking time out of your busy schedule to support me and my growing community. This is going to be a first episode in a three-part mini-series of me helping out college football 26 players in dynasty related issues. So if you're new, drop a like, a comment, and let me know how you feel about college football 26 this year, specifically dynasty mode, because I've heard a lot of interesting takes. Personally, I think 26 is worse than 25. Hot take, I know. Either way, let me know how you feel about college football 26 dynasty mode specifically. Now, this video will be the video where I show you the most busted college football coaching build in the game. Also, in this video, I will be showing you why I bought the perks I did and explaining to you why I skipped out on other perks. Just know I have 3 30-year dynasties under my belt. I have about 9 to 12 other rebuilds, and I've been playing EA Sports football games since I was like 10. So I have many years of experience doing this, and I assure you everything I say, every information nugget I'm going to give you is going to be backed up by information, testing, and yada yada yada. So if you would like to see me do any of this live, I stream every single day. So without all the shameless YouTube plug nonsense out the way, let's get into the build, shall we? So as you guys can see, this is the best from all of my testing college football 26 coach build in the game. Has a little bit program builder, little CEO, elite recruiter, motivator, and talent developer. Very quickly, I'm going to briefly talk about most of the perks in the game. Actually, I'll talk about all the perks I didn't use first because there's a lot of people who are confused on a lot of things. I'm going to talk about the perks I didn't use first and then, break down piece by piece why I went where I went. First of all, of the 3 starting perks, Motivator is the best. If anyone tells you that it's Recruiter after it got giga nerfed into the ground or Tactician, they are absolutely lying to your face and they are actively trying to ruin your dynasty. Now, in this game, you get access to a lot of skill points. However, it's very hard past a certain point to unlock said skill points, right? It's much easier to go from level 1 to level 10 than it is to go from level 50 to 51, right? The higher level you go, the harder it is to level up. So you really do need to think in the proper order you want to buy stuff. You don't want to be all willy-nilly and just buying as you go. Have a plan pre-made. So when you start out, do not get Recruiter. Do not get Tactician. This applies to every build, whether online or offline. Motivator is objectively the best starting of the 3. And I'll explain why very quickly. Motivator, all you really care about is tier 1 and tier 3. Tier 2 is irrelevant. If I could skip it, I would, but you can't because you got to buy tier 2 to get to tier 3. You want tier 3 on base Motivator for every position except for kickers and punters, and for 2 particular reasons. 1, the first tier of Recruiter gives you something that actively buffs recruiting. That's right, there's a perk in Motivator that helps you with recruiting. Good job, EA Sports. Very smart company. Now, this perk was just recently nerfed, so it's nowhere near as good as it was, but it's still a phenomenal perk, especially if you're a small program fighting with 4 stars at bigger programs. So tier 1, amazing. However, to utilize tier 1, you can't have auto recruiter on. You got to have manual, and you have to either manually upgrade your players or have the computer automatically upgrade them when the next season starts. I'll explain that in episode 2 of this. For right now, this is just the perks and the coach build. I'll explain the recruiting stuff in a different episode, so stay tuned. But yeah, you basically want Master Motivator, or excuse me, Base Motivator, tier 1 and tier 3. Tier 2 does not matter. Tier 3 gives you a massive off-season training boost. Just to put into perspective how massive I'm talking here, on average, you'll get about 15 to 20 skill points a season without Motivator. Tier 3, with Motivator tier 3, you're going to go from 15 to 20 tokens a year to about 25 to 30 tokens per year. That increase to 5 to 10 tokens may not sound like a ton, but some of the upgrades in this game cost 15 points. So getting an extra 10 points matters a lot. And it's also per dev trait. So if you have normal dev, it's about 5 to 10. If you have impact dev, it's about 10 to 12. And just everything proportionally goes up the higher dev trait you have. So if you have an elite dev player, they're probably going to be getting like an extra 20 to 25 tokens, which is a lot. If you ever wonder how people get these players that have, like I did, my record is 127 tokens, that you got to have Motivator to do that. So there you go. Next, Whether you have the pre-order bonus, which for this coach, I did have the pre-order bonus, which is the reason why I stopped at level 97. I'm still missing approximately 36 skill points that gives you wiggle room. I did that on purpose. That way, if there's something you don't like in the build, you have some wiggle room. After you get tier 3 motivator on everything except for kickers and punters, the next thing you have to do is get recruiter. And the reason why is we want talent developer. To get talent developer, you got to have 2 first-round picks and or 50 points spent in recruiter. And so unfortunately, we have to buy this garbage perk. Now, let me explain this. If you watch any video or TikTok or YouTube short or what have you that tells you the guide to recruiting is to buy recruiter perks, they do not know what they're talking about. They are being intellectually dishonest. Talking about you T4G, talking about you C4, I'm naming content creators in this community. Hell, there's a guy who was on my TikTok feed recently, or YouTube feed, YouTube shorts, who just told people just buy it, just bad information. They nerfed recruiter into the ground. It is now, in my opinion, of the 3 base trees, the worst tree. In order of just the base trees, it goes motivator, then tactician, then recruiter. And here's the reason why. Recruiter has 2 perks that don't do anything. That is tier 4 and tier 2. Or excuse me, tier 3. Tier 3 and tier 4. Tier 4 is swaying, gives you an increased chance to sway. You should never be swaying people. That garbage mechanic is still a garbage mechanic from 25 going to 26. It's garbage. Do not use it. If you are swaying or someone's telling you to sway, you're playing the game wrong. Just don't. So tier 4, useless. Tier 3, blank position are more interested in your thing in the portal. This essentially is up to you. I don't like the transfer portal because it's an incredibly buggy feature in this game, and I do not like how hard the deal breakers are, especially the playing time deal breaker when I have a person who's already the starter and he still isn't happy enough. That's annoying. Or if he needs a B plus something and I have a B minus, that's annoying. I don't like the deal breakers in this game. And at the time of me recording this video, EA Sports hasn't tuned them yet. So it's very annoying. I don't like the portal for that reason. And number 2, a friend of mine, we were doing New Mexico versus New Mexico State in a dynasty build off. Within 2 seasons, he had a 91 or 92 overall team because of the portal. He just got everyone he wanted out of the portal, and he basically skipped the entire rebuild. It wasn't really much of a rebuild. He was already in the playoff within 2 years. So if you don't want to actually rebuild your team, and you just want to skip to the end where you have a really good team and the game's easy mode, yada, 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 then obviously this is different. But personally for me, the reason why I rebuild teams like Kent State or Akron or Missouri State, like I'm doing now in my YouTube series, is because they suck and I want to gradually improve them. With all due respect, they suck. It's no fun going from they suck to we're now fighting with Georgia in the Natty. That's not fun to me in 2 years. So if you like the portal and you like to, just make your team a 90 in a couple years, but just getting everybody, obviously go down recruiter and get to tier 3. But considering how buggy the portal is and how there are hundreds of 4-stars and like about 5 to 10 5-stars a year that hit the portal, it's way too easy to abuse. So I just don't really utilize the portal, which means if I'm going to buy recruiter, it's going to be tier 1 or tier 2. And another useless perk is magnetic, personality tier 2. A lot of people don't understand how this works or how interest works. And I'll have this in part 2 of my 3-part series I'm recording. Magnetic personality. I'm going to read this twice. Once at normal speed and again the second time, and when you hear the second time, you'll understand why this perk sucks. Increased starting interest from insert position here. So QBs, defensive linemen, receivers, depending on the position, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to read that again. Increased starting interest from... It only impacts you in week 0. That's it. You are wasting points on a perk that impacts you for 1 season. The initial, when it's week 0, I might have misspoke. I said the initial season, initial week, you get the point. In week 0, when you are filtering by recruits and you can filter by interest, this perk will raise it. Example, if you have 10th interest, or you're the 10th team, it'll increase it to like 6 or 7. If you're 6 or 7, it'll raise it to like 3 or 4. If you're 3 or 4, you'll raise it to like 1 or 2. You get the point. It makes them a little more interested in you. But if they're not in your pipeline, it doesn't matter how much interest they have in you. You shouldn't be going after them. Again, I have a video on this probably have it linked at the end of this video. So, but it only helps you for week 0. Once when you get past the week 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, if you're not recruiting a prospect, they're not going to magically become yours, right? Teams will jump you. So even if you have the most interest in week 0, by week 1 or week 2, you can easily be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th, whatever. Congratulations. They're interested in you in the beginning, and that's it. It's a useless perk. So if you're keeping track in base recruiter, tier 2 is useless, tier 4 is useless, and tier 3 fundamentally breaks the game. So because I needed points to get this perk that I actually wanted, I bought recruiter and then just bought tier 1, right? I like the scout, helps in the portal, helps, you know, when I do use the portal, helps in the regular season when I use every single year. Just pretty solid. So once when you have base recruiter unlocked for everybody, and then once when you have Motivator unlocked for everybody, here's where you reach the first wall of the build. Now, to replicate the build I'm showing you, you have to be at least level coach 97. Beastly. Why does that matter? Another thing that nobody will ever tell you in these coach build videos is they always will tell you what perks to buy, but they'll never include the part in how hard it is to get the perk. So just to show you, because I love you guys and I do the science so you guys don't have to. I have it on fastest quarterback or coach XP, fastest. You want to guess how many years? I mean, I guess you can kind of already see it right there. So I guess there's really no point in me trying to like hide. But to get to level 97 with the fastest coach XP setting, I had to win 16 national championships and basically win every game for 16 years. You can only play Dynasty for 30-year increments before the game will kick you out. Which means to replicate this build, literally perk by perk, you will probably not get this. There's all sorts of ways you can get coach XP, but from what I found from my testing, that winning a natty is the most. You get about 45 to 50,000 XP for a natty, which is about a whole level. And then for playoff games are 22 to 28,000 XP, which are about half a level. So throughout a whole playoff run, if you get all 4 playoff games and the natty, you're looking at 3 to 5 levels a season from just that. So just keep in mind when I'm showing you this build, and I'm showing you these perks, it took me 16 consecutive years of winning 16 natties to acquire the coach points on fastest, which means if you're playing on normal or slow coach XP, you will never get these perks. You will never get these perks. It will never happen. You will not have the time or the season to actually get the perks. But here's where you get the first wall. So you got Motivator, tier 3 on everything but kickers and punters, and you got tier 1 of recruiter on everything but kickers and punters. Now this is where it comes down to your skill as a user for said dynasty. For me, in my Kent State one that I just did, I didn't get a first round pick until a little bit later on into the coach build. It was easier for me to get 2 top 5 recruiting classes than it was to get talent developer. I don't know if it's because the 5 stars I got were a bunch of busts and they didn't develop very well. I don't know why, but I got 2 tier 5 or 2 top 5 recruiting classes before I got a bunch of first round picks. Now, once when I did end up getting elite recruiter, talent developer became really easy because at that point I had any recruit I wanted in the game. Because when you get elite recruiter, you should buy tier 3 for everything except for kickers and punters. And I guess I'll explain why. If you get tier 3, 1, 2, and 3 for every position, you will pretty much never lose a recruit. It does not matter if you're going against Ohio State, if you're going against Georgia, if you're going against Michigan, if you're going against Oregon, it does not matter. About 80% of the time, you still can lose recruits. This is not a foolproof strat. You still can lose recruits, but about 80% of the time, you will get the player. So these perks suck. These perks really good. Base recruiter, the worst perk in the game. The second tier of recruiter is probably the best perk in the game of the base ones. I think it's better than Master Motivator, and I think it's much better than Scheme Guru. So there you go. I think that's how EA Sports balanced it out, is that they made the elite stuff really good, but the base stuff really bad. So there you go. But this is obviously 100% dependent on you, the player, and your recruiting classes. If it's easier for you to get 2 first-round draft picks, then go down talent developer and start buying these, right? You don't have to do either of these in a particular order. It's whatever comes first. If you get a bunch of first round picks, go down talent develop. If you get 2 top 5 recruiting classes, go down elite recruiter. But either way, you're going to buy them both. So the order in which you get these two don't really matter, but up to you. Now, for this build, as you saw with Elite Recruiter, I got tier 3 on everything. Here's the first caveat I will admit. Just imagine this is tier 3 for running backs. I didn't get the last 3 coach levels because I was just tired of simming season. Imagine the running back has tier 3 unlocked. Here's the thing. There's some perks you're going to see later on in the video that I do think you could skip those perks to buy more of these perks, because these perks are pipeline bonuses for entire positions, and I think they're really good. The problem was I kind of was in the process of getting this, like fine-tuning this build. Towards the end, I kind of was just, hey, I'm going to try this to see if it works. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done that, but you'll see. I'll tell you the perks that you could skip. That way you don't have to copy the build one-to-one, but yeah. So in summary, so far, you start the game with Motivator and you get tier 3 on everything. Then you immediately go and get tier 1 base recruiter, tier 1 on everything but kickers and punters. And then you start saving up your skill points for either talent developer or elite recruiter, whatever happens first. And once when you get elite recruiter and or talent developer, you should be routinely making the playoffs. So then program builder and CEO should become online. Speaking of which, here we go. So here's the first caveats I'm going to go ahead and tell you in this video. Strong roots and relationship builders were must-haves in last year's game. I don't feel that way in this year's game. So as you can see, the school I was using, Kent State, they don't have hardly any pipelines. So I went down the path of, well, the pipelines they have suck, so I might as well make them better, which it did. But the issue is if you're using a really, really, really small school that has no pipelines, these 2 perks will not help you that much. Like straight up. So if you have 1 or 2 pipelines, right? Like if you're rebuilding the new Delaware, is it Delaware State, Delaware, the chicken team. If you're rebuilding them, I believe they have 1 pipeline in the entire game. It's like 1 or 2. You don't need these because the 1 or 2 pipelines they have suck. These are 16 points apiece, right? You can completely skip these. If you have a really good pipeline or you're in a really good state, like Texas, for example, you want these because Texas produces a lot of really good players. Specifically, the best pipeline in the game is still North Texas. And then right behind North Texas pipeline is East Texas. Or if not, I have it backwards. It doesn't matter. It's still the number 1 and 2 best pipelines are still Texas. So if you have a good pipeline, these are great. If you're someone with a bad school that also has no pipelines, you can completely skip these. Next, this perk, never used it in this year because last year the perk didn't work. Roster retention did not work. Last year, Delay Sunday was in the CEO category. They moved it down to program builder. Last year, I tested it. It didn't matter what overall your players were. If your players were going to go pro, they were going to go pro. Does not matter. After testing this perk with about 12 to 14 seasons of having it, I can definitively tell you that this perk works. If you do not buy this perk, you will notice a ton of your sophomores and your juniors will go pro. You will get them to a 99 overall, especially if you're getting good players, not normal dev players. If you're getting superstar or elite dev prospects, they will go pro in 1 to 2 years. So getting someone for their junior or senior year, or even their redshirt junior or their redshirt senior year is really, really, really hard. With roster retention, it's not that hard, right? I was noticing I had a bunch of redshirt juniors and redshirt seniors stick around because of this perk. So it's actually nice that it actually works this year. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's 100% accurate. Players who are a 99 overall will still go into the NFL. But if they're like a 94 or like a 93, they do stick around. So these 2 perks, completely optional if your school has terrible pipelines and the area in which the pipeline is sucks. But no harm, no foul, right? You could pretty much buy these 3 perks for every team in every rebuild, and you will always get value. Will you get a ton of value? Depends on the state, depends on the school. But generally speaking, no harm, no foul if you just blindly buy these every single time. I don't recommend the other ones just because they're either a waste of points or they just don't impact the game enough. So then once when you have everything else, you should have a couple natties under your belt. If you have a couple natties under your belt, you should have CEO. And I will admit CEO this year is kind of cracked. There are 2 unavoidable perks in CEO that you will buy every single dynasty, unless you're doing like a rebuild where you're just trying to get there like to win one natty and then the rebuild's done. But if you're doing a long-term rebuild, lasting impressions is a must-have perk. This is a non-negotiable. You have to have this because every 10 hours spent on a recruit gets you more interest, which makes them like you more. Stack that with tier 1, 2, and 3 of Elite Recruiter, you have about an 80 to 85% chance of getting any recruit you want. That's also another reason why I don't use a transfer portal, is because I can pretty much recruit as many or as little people as I want. There you go. The other non-negotiable is more the merrier. At first, I was not a believer in this perk, increasing the number of players' visits to 8. At first, I was like, whatever, just schedule your visits better, no big deal. No. The amount of times you will get absolutely cucked on a visit because you can't schedule them because they've already reached the maximum number of schedules, or because, you know, your team had a terrible schedule, you get all your home games towards the end. There's a lot of variables that factor into these things. But when you have 8 per visit, it gives you so much wiggle room, it's insane. So not just do you get more wiggle room, if you do hit that magical number, which I did, and get all 8 or 6, or I think it's 6, maybe it's 8, I don't remember. If you can get an entire group of people to all give each other complimentary visits, even if you lose the game 1,000-0, you will still max out your interest because they're all giving each other buffs. So this perk can single-handedly get you like 8 recruits at once. Like 8 5-stars, assuming positions and you know, a lot of stuff, but it can get you a bunch of players at once. So these 2 perks, non-negotiable. Every dynasty I do that's a long-term dynasty, I will be trying to get these 2 perks because they fundamentally break the game. We will talk about 2 optional perks. As you see, I have Gain Getter and I have Senior Superlatives. These 2 are completely optional. This is 32 coach points you can put anywhere else in the build if you don't want these. I was strictly testing these perks out and the results were very interesting. First, let's start with Gain Getter. Increasing the chance of a dev trait can be game breaking, right? Getting a superstar to elite dev or an impact into superstar or even a normal dev to impact dev can be the difference between someone being like an 85 to like a 95 overall. It's a big, big, big deal. And with all the other perks that we have that are boosting XP and boosting ways at which players can develop, you know, having a higher dev trait is what you would want. I don't know if this perk is bugged or if I had really bad RNG while using this perk. But from my 14 seasons having it, I noticed a trend every off season with this perk. I noticed every off season that one of 2 things would happen. Either a superstar player would become an elite dev player, or I would have a bunch of normal dev players end up becoming impact players. I did not have a single off season in 14 years where I had like 25 recruits increase their dev trait. That has never happened. Either one player is getting a massive bump in their dev trait, or 3 to 5 players are going from normal to impact. So this perk, I think, is completely optional. If you are hard recruiting every season, you are always recruiting gems. If you are always recruiting gems, you will always have star to elite dev prospects, which means you don't need to increase them. So this perk, completely skippable. Next perk, Senior Superlatives was a must-have perk last year because how skill caps work. This year, I don't think so. I really don't. I was testing this out, and Senior Superlatives is better than Archetype, but I think it's skippable. Because again, if you're recruiting the 5-star gems and the 4-star gems, they have good dev traits. If they have good dev traits, they don't have any skill caps. If they don't have any skill caps, you don't need this perk. Technically, with this build, I left you 36 points worth of wiggle room, and you can even skip these 2 perks and get what, 36, that's what, 68? You could have an extra 68 points of wiggle room. So if you don't like something I did, you get 68 points to work with. But the non-negotiable are lasting impressions and more the merrier. You have to get those every single rebuild. So there you go. That's the build with up to 64, 68 points of wiggle room. Now let's talk about the perks that didn't make the cut very quickly. We'll start with Tactician first. Tactician, really simply put, the +2 stats you acquire does not improve the game nearly enough as you think it does at all. And here's why. EA, for every game I've ever played in my life, and I'm 26 years old at the time of me recording this video, I'm 26, I've been playing their games for the last 16 years. Their games are stat-based, and the stats are equal to animations. So if you want your wide receiver to OBJ catch somebody, to moss them with that crazy spec catch animation, you have to have 99 spec catch. That's the final threshold, is the 99 stat. Before the 99 stat, the next threshold is 91. 91 man coverage, 91 zone coverage, 91 catch and traffic, 91 throw medium short. You get the point. There is no difference between 91 throw medium and 93 throw medium. There is no difference between 91 man coverage and 95 man coverage. It's the same threshold. If the number is not 91 or 99, it plays the exact same. So 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98 are in a threshold area. 99 gets its own area. And as you could probably guess, just like how it works in the upper 90s, it also works that way in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. And you get my point. So congratulations. My quarterback gets eventually +2 short accuracy and +2 medium accuracy. If my quarterback has 97 throw short and 97 throw medium, great perk. More than likely, your quarterback will not have 97 throw short or 97 medium, which means the perk's not really going to do squat for you. And everything I just told you for quarterback applies to every other position. However, if there was a gun to my head and I had to buy it, and the reason why you would have to sadly buy it is because Scheme Guru is in a similar vein of Elite Recruiter, where the base perk sucks, but the elite perk is really good. To get this, you have to spend points up here. If I have to spend points on Tactician, which I don't recommend you doing, the two positions I would buy is secondaries, because it affects your strong safety, your free safety, and your cornerback. That's 3 position groups. Depending on what defense you play, if you're in a 3-2-6, that's impacting 6 people. If you're in a 4-3, it's impacting 4 people. If you're in a, you get the point. 3-3-5, it's impacting 5 people, right? So if I have to buy these to get Scheme Guru, I'm getting the secondary one. And then if I need to spend more, I'm getting the offensive line one. Because again, offensive line is 5 positions. You want to impact the most. Do not buy the quarterback one because it only impacts quarterbacks. Do not buy the running back and fullback one because it only impacts 2 positions, and one of them don't really exist in this game. So you get the point. Next, we'll talk about Scheme Guru. These perks are either game-breaking or useless. There is no in between. I was a massive fan of ground and pound offense and ground and pound defense in last year's game. 1, because fatigue was insane in last year's game. And 2, being able to counter the run and also make my run better is a big deal. It's a very big deal. However, in college football 26, the wear and tear has been toned down drastically, and the fatigue has been toned down drastically. My players are not red barring where they have -19 stats after 1 hit stick anymore. So since they kind of nerf fatigue, they kind of also nerf these 2 perks. The knockout one didn't work for me last year. I was, getting mossed. It didn't really do much for me. Same thing with the catching one. These 2 didn't really work for me. These 2 were really good for me. These 2 didn't really work for me. These 2 are irrelevant. Do not buy these. And then having your players fatigue slower, getting the just tier 1 for the battery pack and the gas tank. This isn't terrible, but it's a lot of investment for just 2 perks, right? Ground and pound offense and defense, and then a little bit. So in general, I just don't think Tactician's worth it. The stats you need to get value out of, you're not going to get most of the time. And kind of as a crappy compensation award, because Tactician sucks, these other 2 perks suck with it. We'll start with the perk that sucks a little less, Strategist. The reason why I don't value this at all, it's very, very, very situational. You're not guaranteed to have that player on complimentary visits every season, or even with like other players. So tier 1 is very situational. Tier 2 is nice, and then tier 3 is really, really, really good, but you're spending so many points to get perks that are nice and good when you can get perks that are guaranteed to work. I will take a perk that will work 100% of the time over a perk that's going to only work 30 or 40% of the time. It's really simple. And then tier 4 Mind Reader. I was very hyped about this when we learned about this in the beta, but now that you can change players' dev traits, seeing a dev trait is irrelevant because you should be looking for gems, and if they're a gem, they have a good dev trait. It's really that simple. Look for gem equal good dev trait. There you go. So Strategist is just way too situational. And honestly, it was great in last year's game because you couldn't fix dev traits, but now that you can fix dev traits, situational perks plus lackluster final is not very good. And then we get to the most glazed perk in the entire game, and the perk that I absolutely cannot, if people this perk drives me insane. Architect is the biggest scam in the game, If anyone ever tells you to buy this garbage perk, click off the video. This purple perk of doom is terrible. If you're still watching this far into the video, appreciate y'all. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you're this far into the video, leave like a purple emoji in the comments next to like the angry emojis, just so I know you're this far into the video. But either way, archetype is awful. Here's why it's awful. Tier 3, increased chance at a random skill cap when leveling up, and Tier 4, into a conference natty, do not work. And here's why. There was a live stream I did where I was Clemson, and I followed the career of 8 athletes for 4 years worth of starting. They're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I had them for 5 years in my program. 8 athletes, 4 on offense, 4 on defense, with variety of dev trait and variety of positions. And after having them in my program for 5 years, where similarly to Kent State, I force won my games. I did not lose a single game. I went whatever and didn't lose a game for 5 years. On average, they are removing 1 skill cap per player per year. In college football 25, there were less fundamental skill caps. Therefore, removing one of them could be really good or really bad. In this game, there are a ton more skill caps, so removing 1 skill cap is irrelevant. And if any of you guys know how math works, that's just an average. Meaning some years you're going to get like 2 or 3 or 4 skill caps removed and you're going to be like, oh my God, this perk's broken. And then other years you're going to have 0. Nothing will change. And you're going to feel scammed. Furthermore, in this testing I did with Clemson, I had Max Motivator, Master Motivator, and Talent Developer, which means I had every perk in the game giving my players XP. And my coordinators also were talent developers. So my players were getting XP out the wazoo. The more times they level up, the more higher chance they have of, with Limitless kicking in. Even with me going out of my way to making them never lose a game and having the most giga buffed build to give them XP, on average, it was 1 token or 1 skill cap per player per year. You have to spend hundreds of coach points for a perk that does nothing. Furthermore, another side tangent I'm going to go on. It's a random perk or random skill cap for tier 3. Random. There's a lot of stuff in this game that just doesn't matter. Like if I have a vertical tight end, I care about speed, I care about route running, and I care about catching. I don't care about run blocking. If his random skill cap is run blocking, that was a wasted season. Furthermore, if I have a receiver who's a very slow receiver, who's a 50-50 possession catch, big body receiver, I would want to increase his speed. There's a chance it ends up being his like elusiveness or something. His yak, his yards after catch. And it's like, I don't want that. That's not what he needs. Because you can't control what skill caps you get. Even when you do get them, it's fucking random what you get, which is annoying. Which was the exact reason why, if you remember early on in the build, I had senior superlatives. This is a guarantee to happen every redshirt senior year. Every year. And because you have talent or a roster retention, they are going to stick around for their senior year. So if they have any skill caps, they're going to be wiped off the board. And it's guaranteed. Unlike Architect, which is an awful perk, which is just RNG. Some years you'll get hella lucky and you'll get 3, 4, 5. Some years you'll get 0. It's terrible. Do not waste your perks on it. Do not waste your coordinators on it. And do not buy this perk. So yes, this is the build. I left you 68 points of wiggle room. Change what you would like to change. Do what you would like to do. But from my experience, online, offline, with players, without players, this is the best build. And the reason why is because as long as you recruit good players, they will develop really well. If they develop really well, they'll become a high overall. If they're a high overall, they will simulate very well. And or if you're, playing the games against people, if you have a 95 overall receiver against their like 82, your 95 receiver is going to cook them. Right? I can give Timmy No Thumbs the controller with a 99 overall roster, and he'll beat someone who's decent at the game if my team's just better. Now, if your teams are about equal, then it comes into skill, but yada, 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 you get the point. The last time I recorded this video, it was like an hour and a half. I'm gonna try and cut this down to like 35, 40 minutes. So if you stuck to the end of the video, I appreciate you. Stop by the streams, stream every day and or post a video every day at 6 o'clock CST. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Here's the build really quickly. In quick summary to wrap this up. Motivator base, first thing you buy, tier 3, 1 through 3 for everything but kickers and punters. Then you go into recruiter and get tier 1 recruiter on everything but kickers and punters. Then you sit and either get 2 first round picks or 2 top 5 recruiting classes, whatever comes first, you buy that first. And then when you have one of these 2 done, you should be getting program builder and you should be getting CEO. Then you just start filling out the tree. Let me know where you disagree with me in the comments below. Let me know how I offended you by explaining to you how your perk works, because I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people with this video, but they're just facts, right? I know how the game works. I'm trying to educate and, you know, mildly entertain a few of you guys. So there you go. As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Join me a follower/sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you can become a member, 1, it does support me a ton, and 2, it comes with a bunch of perks for the channel, custom videos, VIP videos, and channel or in Discord benefits as well. So if you can become a member, I would greatly appreciate that. Yeah, guys, I will be seeing you when I see it. Deuces.